Great to be with you again on Locked On Texas Tech on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day, always free and available on YouTube or anywhere you get podcasts. And thanks as always for making us your first listen. Today's episode brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use our code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. With the only Chris Level, I'm Casey Cowan. Chris, great to be back with you once again. Wrapping up the week with the Locked On Texas Tech special edition. It's the Matador Mob Mailbag with a host of subjects to get to, so we waste no time. Coming up in just a moment, we'll get to looking ahead to the 2025 season and something we talked about a little bit this week, a talent level that's obviously rising. To what extent from the National Football League's perspective, though, we'll get to projecting some draft prospects in just a moment. Also, I want to talk about some news that's bubbling right now as we speak. And you and I have touched on this before, but seemingly heading toward an expanded hoops tournament as far as March Madness, and more of it coming our way. Good, bad, and different. We'll get to thoughts on that as well. But I wanted to kick off our conversation today with this question as it relates to rosters and athletics departments and challenges that really everyone, I guess, coast to coast probably dealing with at this point in time, Chris. But from a Tech perspective, I want to talk scholarship allotment with you. And we had actually a couple of mobsters asking about this week in different ways. We had Brent, we had Sonny, we also had David talking about the choices that are being made within an athletics department, specifically the one here in the 806. Are there programs that you feel like are going to be in real binds? And could they be some really high achieving programs? I think it was David mentioning the track and field program as an example, or a baseball program or something along those lines. So I know that can be a big subject to tackle. Start where you'd like, but what do you make of how that process is working out, or soon to, here at Texas Tech?
Yeah, this is part of the House settlement. It kind of puts the onus on each department to decide how they choose to proceed. And it's not like you can, or you have to make a decision right now, and then this is it. Like, you've made your choice. Like, you can tweak and morph, and hey, if this isn't working or whatever. Essentially, the gist is you take this $20.5 million cap. And then they said to you, hey, we're going to increase scholarship allotments across the board with a lot of these sports. Let's just go with football. You can scholarship up to 105 football players. And so all these scholarships would be allowed to be given. If you went the max across the board, which some schools have done, and we'll get to that because that affects Texas Tech in some ways, but some schools have chosen to do that. Texas Tech has not. But what it does is it basically takes your cap from like $20.5 million down to like 17.5 to 18, because every time you give out extra scholarship over what used to be the limit in anything, you're going with the increased deal, then there's a price tag that comes with each of those scholarships. And if you give one to men's, a new one, you got to give one to women's. Okay. So you can't just say, hey, we're going to scholarship 105 in football and then we're not going to do the rest. Well, no, then you're going from 85 to 105. You better come up with 20 that you're giving to the women's programs. That's just the way it's a 1-for-1 scenario as it relates to Title IX, I believe, the way that's working. So Texas Tech has really not chosen to go extra scholarships. They have chosen to try to maintain as much rev share money as they can hold on to give out. So Arizona State has chosen to give out full allotment of scholarships in a variety of sports. I think some of the SEC schools, A&M, Clemson, anyway, there's a handful that are going this route, and I essentially it's an AD or a department decision, basically saying we're not. This is our way of giving rev share to these other sports, so we're not going to give them any rev share, but we're going to fully scholarship their sport. Like, yep. Cowan, this is like 11.7 in baseball up to 34. So right now, Tim Tadlock is competing and recruiting against Arizona State, for example, where they can scholarship 34 players. He can only scholarship 11.7. And then he gets, I think it was reported like somewhere around $300,000 to $400,000. So I'm sure he could use that to scholarship, or he can use it to bring in quality. Like, hey, we'll fully scholarship and we'll give you some money, whereas Arizona State can't theoretically do that, or wouldn't be able to do that. This is affecting track big time. There's a big thread on RedRaidersports.com. There's a lot of frustration, but Coach Kitley is I think dealing with this. I think a lot of these sports are dealing with this, and what Tech is getting hit with, or these coaches are getting hit with, and it's sports specific. It's Tim Tadlock may be hearing out there when he's trying to recruit, they're not committed to baseball there. We are. We fully scholarshiped it. We are all locked in. Wes Kitley may be hearing, they're not committed to track there, but we are here. I mean, so right, wrong, or indifferent, but these are the decisions that Kirby and President Skuvenik and Cody Campbell, this is how they've chosen to go about this right now. It doesn't mean that it will stay this way. Now, here's what I will also say, Cowan, and I'm just going to be blunt here. There ain't no effing way that one of these SEC schools is going to do the noble thing and take this hit and only be able to give out 17.5 to 18 million and take it away from football or basketball. Or no, everybody's going to figure out ways to work around the system and cheat and bagman returns. I mean, all the stuff that's what you're dealing with. So that's the frustrating thing about the House settlement, is that when it was free reign, you could do whatever, and now you got to stay within the lines. Nobody's ever stayed within the lines, ever. And anybody sitting in some office going, yeah, man, people largely follow the rules. Believe what you want. No, they didn't, and no, they don't, and no, they won't. So I just and I'm almost to the point where I'm of the opinion that Texas Tech and maybe should look at, because I think Texas Tech is trying to have the most money legally to give out. They feel like that's maybe their advantage, but these other, I just don't buy. There's not a fiber of my being that believes that these schools that are giving out the full allotment of scholarships will stay within the lines and not come up with a way to, work around, operate in the gray area, under the table. I mean, you're already hearing stories like, hey, man, don't report this deal. I'm going to pay your agent. I'm not going to pay you. We're not going to have an NIL collective deal with the athlete. We're just going to do it with a third party, and then they can, there's all these things that you're hearing that are happening at all these places, and people, and this the body's still warm. I mean, this deal hadn't even been done a month hardly. And everybody's trying to. So who knows, man? I'd like to think that everybody would operate, and I think Texas Tech is trying to. But you could argue you're at a bit of a disadvantage with some of this stuff, or maybe you're advantaged in others. It's just very Pollyanna-ish to think that some SEC school is going to fully scholarship their deal, and they're going to be able to give out less money to their football program. I just don't buy it. I don't, in no way buy that as a real option.
Well, that's got to be good news for fans of tradition, or those who've been upset about college football losing so-called traditions. The return of the bagmen, that's got to scratch you right where you itch. I don't think they've ever actually left, by the way. And I would also say that has been a concern, like the unemployed duffel bag boys of the college football world. Where have they gone during this NIL era? So here we go. Let's kick it into throwback mode, possibly. An interesting dynamic to consider, and one that will remain fluid, I'm sure, from calendar to calendar, as you maybe make new decisions when new circumstances arrive, as they typically do, it seems like. in the world of college sports. So thank you for that question. This question here from Vince asking about an expanded NCAA basketball tournament. He's simply saying, good or bad, fellas? First, today's episode brought to you by Gametime. Imagine watching your favorite team at the college basketball tournament live, feeling the energy of the crowd, witnessing unforgettable moments. We all know there's nothing like experiencing a big game in person, and getting tickets shouldn't be stressful. That's where Gametime comes in, making it easier than ever to grab last-minute seats at unbeatable prices. With Gametime Picks, curation makes it even easier to find better value for tickets to sports, concerts, comedy, theater, and more. And the one and only lowest price guarantee, which means you get the lowest price or Gametime will credit you 110% of the difference. Plus, peace of mind with seat views before you buy, no surprise fees, and the lowest price guarantee. You can book with total confidence. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use our code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. That's LOCKEDONCOLLEGE, Locked On College, for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets at the lowest price. Guaranteed. Expanded NCAA basketball tournament. He's simply saying, good or bad, fellas? And I'm sure it'll break down in such a black and white way, right, Chris?
Yeah, I mean, it's so we had a couple of expansion notes here. One is actually official. The other one is heavily proposed and on the cusp of happening. Let's get to the one that's official first. They have basically stated that not this coming up academic year, but the following academic year, 26-27, every team will get an extra game on the regular season schedule. Like, you'll be allowed to play up to 32 regular season games. And I think with the MTE in mind, they wanted to create a bigger runway there for teams to go do some different things that are structured a bit differently and not necessarily like what you're going to do in the Bahamas. It's a 4-team deal. You're guaranteed 2 games, but I gather that this NIL tournament they're having in Vegas, which is a real tournament. It's like quarterfinals, semifinals, finals, and all that, but it's tricky because a team that enters into this tournament, if they were to play that 3rd game or the 4th game or however it's set up and however many teams, it could alter the rest of their schedule. Well, we already had, or we didn't schedule enough games, or we're over the limit. So that's largely what if you want to figure out kind of why this ultimately happened, and basically they were like, the times are changing. So everybody gets an extra game now. So all because of some of these MTEs, but I think that one in particular. As far as the NCAA tournament, I think that you could read in the coming days or weeks that it's been expanded immediately, like next March. And it's the way it reads, and the folks that are plugged in, 76 is the most likely scenario, up from 68. All it will ultimately mean is more first 4 type games. Like, in other words, you have that doubleheader on that Tuesday and Wednesday night before the tournament actually starts. Now you'll have a doubleheader on Tuesday and Wednesday morning too, and it'll be a full day both days, I think. And I'm assuming that maybe Dayton would still be I don't know how much more money is involved here from a TV standpoint or the TV deal. I think there's a lot of people that are frustrated by this. Like, what are we doing? Nobody's asking for this. But, I think Brett Yormark has been one that's been pushing for this. He's been saying, no, do it. Because I think he feels like he's operating from a position of strength with this league. And the more teams get in, the more units we can get and the more money we can make and all that stuff. But yeah, I think that's ultimately what you're looking at having happen there.
I'm going to just assume right now that more of what I love is going to be better in this instance.
Sure.
So that's certainly no guarantee, but I guess I hope that there's going to be more, I guess, second or third tier SEC, Big 12, Big 10, ACC teams getting in than not. So I don't want to see it squeeze the other way, which surely it won't be. And if it's not, then I'll consider that a good thing, because I have always felt like there are some worthy teams sort of in that range year to year that miss out on opportunities, and it's all in their control. It's no great tragedy when you're talking about, number 69 or 70. Boy, they were right there on the cusp. But you get what I'm saying. I mean, some of these major conference teams do get squeezed a bit on the back end in favor of some others from smaller conferences.
Yeah, I could envision a few of the group of fives. I do always feel bad when there's this team that went 26-2 on the season or whatever it is, and they ended up getting upset in their conference championship game. I mean, and again, the rules are simple: like, win your conference tournament and you're in. It's your fault, not nobody else. But it doesn't mean that they're not a legit team. They just had a bad day, whatever. So I could see a few of those getting some nods. But you're right. That's why the home plate is usually non-negotiable. It's 17 inches wide, but I think that you're trying to widen it for the Power 4 leagues. That's what Brett Yormark is banking on. I mean, if it squeezes another team or two or three into the tournament every year, then ultimately the league wins, because it's every team that advances, and you get these units, and those are worth money and all the things. So I think he's been very pro expansion and been very selfish about his reasoning, and I don't blame him. I'd be doing the same thing.
No, you think you'll be well represented there, and you got to flaunt what you got. So that's what you got cooking right now when it comes to the Big 12 Conference. Thank you for that question. This question here from Joseph. I know we've talked David Bailey's future in the NFL and what he is as a prospect, but if we're talking about the NFL draft, should we be talking about multiple guys? Is it prospects instead of prospect? How many could we be talking, Chris, if you think are actually legitimately on the roster now and showing up on NFL draft radars just down the line?
If you're talking about, we will do a show on this at some point very soon with some hard facts or data, opinion. But generally speaking, I think that there's a consensus out there based on some data that I've been able to look at, that from NFL talent evaluators and Senior Bowl folks. So again, they don't care where anybody goes to school. They don't care, they don't care. They don't care what league you play in. They don't give a damn. They're in the business of grading prospects as players and evaluating for the next level. This is their job. Okay. And they've been doing it for a long time. They're really good at it. I think there's some thought that you have right now, you have as many as, now again, this isn't for next year's draft per se, so don't misunderstand, but like draft eligible guys without people that could declare, you're in around 10 to 13. I think specifically, like you would say 12, and that could include like a preferred free agent, somebody that could go late in the draft, that or could be like Jalen Conyers was. I mean, nobody's going to doubt that Jalen Conyers was a pro player. He just didn't have his name called in the 7th round, but he was one of the first calls that everybody made after it, and now he's in Miami and all those things. But like some of the things that I've seen, this doesn't even include like a Howard Sampson. It doesn't include like a Bryce Pollock. It doesn't include a Quentin Joyner, which if they all were to, have a year, they could all, and that's so that now you're up to like 15-ish. And, I mean, but both your receivers, both your tight ends, Balfour is a DB, Wisniewski is a DB, Zambrano as an O lineman, Davion Carter is an interesting one. We'll kind of monitor that one. Your entire defensive line. The whole thing.
Boy, that goes down smooth.
Yeah,
I like hearing that.
The whole damn thing. Skylar Gill Howard is one that maybe we should be talking more about. But like, of course, Hunter and Height and Bailey. And Bailey on paper right now is going to be the highest and most well thought of. He's as close to a sure thing as a top pick as you have on your team right now. The other couple names that may surprise folks is, like, I think the NFL folks have a pretty high opinion of Baron Morton, more so than most people that watch this league or watch this team or maybe even watch this show. But there's a late round grade on Baron. And again, some of that will get adjusted by how many quarterbacks decide to come out, what kind of year you have going forward, and all that stuff. So we'll get into that in a future episode. But like AJ McCarty is one. AJ McCarty is thought to have some. So anyway, I'm just kind of bouncing around there. But yeah, but this doesn't even count like some of your younger guys. Like maybe some of these younger offensive linemen or defensive linemen or some of the, I'm not getting into those kinds of guys yet. These are just more your junior, senior, redshirt senior type range of player that have already been playing a bit.
Yeah.
So Jacob Rodriguez is another one too. Sorry.
It's all good. Thank you for that question. This one from John asking about the roster you've assembled this offseason and how that could impact in-game strategy. Basically suggesting without this portal impact, would we have seen a more aggressive sort of in-game plan? Or do you think with so much talent now on the roster, it could lead to more conservative, don't screw it up, out talent folks kind of in-game strategy?
Well, you could argue that because they're more talented, they can be more aggressive because they can afford, they maybe have a larger margin for error now. So screw it. Let's take some chances because we can figure it out. But let's go after people. Let's be aggressive. Let's take a shot because we might not have to pay the price if it doesn't work for us. Unlike normal, it's like, okay, we're going to take our shot and hold on for dear life. And if not, we're screwed, So I could, I mean, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think like, how we, I'm going to write down this acronym so I remember how to say it right. Okay, there we go. So that way I'll be able to read it off. But remember when we were talking about protecting our emotions and the scar tissue that we've all got, and like, I don't want Tech to be the favorite, and I'm like a little, like, oh, this has been uncomfortable, all that, right? The other school of thought there, when I hear this question being asked is, again, you could be right. I think that could be times where they get more conservative and they don't feel the need to have to pressure or take a shot or run a gadget play, whatever. But there's also the flip side there too, is like, no, that because of all this talent and the wider margin for error, you could absolutely go, no, now we have a license to be way more aggressive because we don't have there's not the other side of the coin where it's like, oh my, like we talked about. The acronym HSMFC. Have some mother confidence. Yeah.
All right.
HSMFC.
Yeah, working on that.
Hashtag it. Put it on a shirt.
TBV. Trust but verify. We got acronyms for days. That does make a little sense though. Like you got a much better chance to make up a risk not panning out for you with a talented roster, you would think, than the inverse of that. So I don't know. I didn't really consider it, but maybe you're taking a few more chances. We'll see how it plays out. Thank you for that question.
And I think I'd be willing to bet you that you see both sides of this coin on every Saturday. At times where they take shots and get really aggressive, at times where they back off and feel like we don't need to do that, or hey man, it's okay to punt. Yeah. You got a really good defense. This team hadn't had an answer. Like, we don't need to force it. We don't need to be aggressive here. Let's punt it to them. And again, and we've seen Joey, even with different rosters, operate the same way. Let's play ball control, or let's go after them. Let's
some wacky stuff.
Yes,
sure.
Yes.
Some of it's panned out, some of it is not panned out, and I don't expect that to necessarily change sort of that gambling approach from case to case as we roll into a fourth year. Bryson, sticking with the football program, asking about our football floor for this season. Chris, I can't see anything less than a bowl game. I mean, a simple 6-6 record. First thing that popped in my head if I'm thinking of a floor or worst case scenario.
You're asking me worst case scenario here?
Floor.
Yeah. Oh boy. And I don't even want to talk about this because I don't even want to, I don't know. I mean,
fair enough, Bryson. Your question has been rejected by
it's I mean,
you're allowed to do that. That's your right.
Here's what I would say: you're not going to suck. You're not. This is a circumstance to where, like, I think about certain players in the past where if they go down, you're hosed. Like, hold on. We've seen this in recent years. Quarterback, Jacob Rodriguez, where it's just all, an offensive lineman, like last year was Scurry, whatever.
Todd Brooks in Washington State.
Yes. I don't really envision a scenario this year to where there's one player that, and this is Barron included, and again, it wouldn't be your best foot forward, but I think there's other ways to win games. So you know what? I'm going to say 7-5 may be your floor.
I like it. You will not suck. The headline, I think, of this answer.
Yeah.
Put it on a T-shirt.
Yeah, you won't suck.
All right. Thank you for that question, Bryson. John asking, I think sort of in a vacuum is the way I'm looking at this, Chris, going into a season and as an overall running back, is Quentin Joyner considered to be a better back than Taj Brooks? If you had to look at it from maybe a pro prospect or in general running back profile kind of terms, what do you think?
Yeah, that, like, as a college player, no, not yet. I think that if you want to talk upside and just speed, that's what the NFL looks at, and that's what plays well in that sandbox. And he definitely has that. I think what people need to see from Quentin Joyner is the consistency, and can he do it as a feature guy, and can he pick up the blitz consistently, and all the things. I mean, he's got all the tools. It's just a matter of perfecting them and executing them, and then letting us see what this looks like, and everybody else included. Taj Brooks' only knock was lack of top end speed. That's the only thing you can really hold against him. And unfortunately for him, the NFL maybe has that as like the top of a wish list of what they want out of a potential feature back. If it's not one, it's 1A. So, but he's not. Yeah, he's not a better back than Taj is right now. No, but I could see how, because of the speed factor, that the NFL would look at these as different prospects because of the speed. Why was Quentin Joyner on that PFF potential running back draftable list for next year and like some things right there? It's because he's fast. He averaged 7 yards a carry. Really different players here at different stages of their life and different stages of their career and all those things as far as skill set. But both are going to wear that double T. Both have a connection with each other already, and away we go.
I like the way you described it upside wise. That's really, I think, kind of the only way to describe it, because they're just different stages, phases, etc.
Yeah, because well, Kevin, you could argue that like there is no more upside with Taj Brooks. He's a finished product. He is what he is right now. Like there is no room to grow. And the professional leagues typically, if you get to 23 or whatever, and you've got a lot of tread on the tires, or whatever position you play, or you've thrown a lot of pitches or whatever, they view that as a negative. They'd rather take a chance on the 18, 19-year-old that like hasn't even come close to like reaching his potential, and you kind of swing away at it. So it's just two different ways of looking at it. I mean, and again, the finished product of Taj Brooks is damn good, but the NFL is like, well, maybe we only get him for 3 to 4 years, and then we have to go find somebody else. Whereas we could keep this other guy for again, but you may miss on the he has a lot of upside guy way more often than not. You're going to swing and miss with those guys, whereas like Taj is more of a sure thing and a certainty and a right now guy. But again, you may not have that for very long.
All right, thank you for that question. This question here from Mark, looking ahead a little bit. Any storylines or other things standing out to you, tech specific or Big 12 related, for Big 12 Media Days coming up just around the corner?
Well, the league in general, I think there'll be a lot of chatter about Brett Yormark. Like they've just announced this this PayPal deal, which should net each institution about $1 million a year over the next 5 years. I think there's been a little loose expansion talk, UNLV and all this stuff, but I think a lot of this is going to have to do with why did you want a 5-11 CFP? Why do you prefer that? Tell me more about you wanting to earn it. Do you really think you're going to be able to get more teams in? There'll be some of that, but the business of the Big 12 will really be the headliner from that standpoint. I'm very interested in the does anybody say anything crazy? I'm very interested. We haven't heard anything on the BYU quarterback situation. I think that's a storyline that I think people are curious about. That very much affects their outlook on their team. Jake Retzlaff with the sexual assault kind of case, and honor code that BYU's got, all that stuff. So I'm sure there's some things I'm not thinking about, but
for Tech, it's going to be all a portal conversation, right? I mean, I'm thinking that's almost all the questions Joey's going to get.
Yeah, he is, and he's going to be asked, what's your realistic expectation? He's going to end up having to say, we got to get back to Arlington or we failed, he's going to get asked a lot about all the dynamics, the story that just came out. Yeah, and he may be more than comfortable with like getting into those conversations, but that part's going to be a bit tricky, in my opinion. I think with all the, do you like all this attention? Do you not like it? Do you feel like you're on the hot seat if you don't hoist up a trophy of some sort in Arlington, or get to the CFP, or did your donor? I mean, just all that entangles that. I think if we're just talking Tech here, I think that he'll I'd love to hear from him. What do you? Tell me more about your schemes, like in layman's terms. Tell me how you will run offense and defense that's different from what we saw last year. He's going to get asked a lot about Baron Morton because nobody saw Baron for the last 6 months. So he's going to tell you how well he's rehabbed, the trips to Jacksonville, how well he's throwing, how much stronger he's gotten, because I think he's put on some weight. I will pass that along. I think he's put on some good weight. So anyways, but there's a lot. And yeah, so it's a fun time of year. It's a necessary time of year. And as we get to this time of year, it's also one of those things that you like, because once it's concluded, you check it off the list. It means you're that much closer to actual football being played.
No doubt. No doubt. Another football question here, and thank you for that question. Asking about a pick potentially with an individual here or there, a standout talent that you think could be on some of these award lists, like a Doak Walker, Biletnikoff, Heisman, Butkus, those types of things when it's all said and done. That question is from Luke. Anybody stand out to you?
Jacob Rodriguez, maybe, with the linebacker award. Yeah, that's probably the main guy that I would offer up as far as maybe. I think he's one of the best linebackers in the Big 12, and I think that means you're in a short conversation of potential best linebackers in the country. If he comes along with a lot of production and there's some wins there and all those things, I think that would be, I guess, my answer to that.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that one. Ed asks, do we have a team or a collection of talent? Is there any way to know yet, Chris?
Well, you have both. The latter there is a certainty. You do have a collection of talent. You ultimately won't know if you have a team until adversity hits. I find it very hard to believe that you're rolling through this thing and you're going to go to Arlington at 12-0 on the season. I don't buy it. I think that is, I would love for that. That would be a hell of a fall for you and I. I mean, I'd sit there and talk about 12 of them. I mean, if you want to, if somebody wants to challenge me, I don't think you can do it. Casey and Chris, I don't think you can talk about 12 wins in a row. I'll try. I mean, if that's what you want. I find that very hard to believe that you would, so at some point, adversity will hit, whether it's in a game or you deal with a loss, and that's when you'll find out. What does that look like? What does the week leading up to it look like? Who's kind of questioning a teammate or their coach, or which coach is questioning whatever that looks like. What's the response look like? And I don't know if we ultimately know that, but that's Joey and Barron and Jacob and Shield and Leftwiches and all the folks. That's their job, is to ensure that it becomes the team at the end of the day, and whatever that looks like. And it won't be perfect. It's not going to be perfect. They're not winning every game 80-0. It ain't happening. And you're not winning every game 1-0 either. I don't buy that. So what does it look like when adversity strikes? Because that's the way sports work, man. You're going to get that on the road. You're going to get a bad call. The ball's going to bounce a funny way sometime, and you're going to be like, damn. But okay, what does it all look like? Is everybody still in? Or are we kind of starting to look what's next, or we're kind of checked out? I don't know.
Thank you for that question, Ed. A couple more before we get out of here. This one from Bob. A lot of the talk about the Tech defense has been the improvement with the defensive line, but how much do you think we improved in the defensive backfield through the portal? I know we've talked about how much these two have to do with one another, and they obviously do, but I guess if we could isolate it, Chris, from a talent or maybe a physical perspective, what kind of upgrade do you think has actually been made among the secondary?
I don't want to speak for him, but I think Darcel McBath and Coach Green would tell you immensely. Now, Coach Green obviously wasn't here last year, but Coach McBath was, as kind of an advanced scout type role. I think they would tell you that they've improved immensely. I think you're deeper. There is no scenario. Okay, like this is part of the conversation we were having earlier. We talked about the Taj Brooks going down or Barron going down. Like, what did it look like when Braylon Lux wasn't playing last year? Whew, hold on, look out. I mean, and I don't think that scenario exists this year. I think between Balfour and Amir Boyd Matthews, that could potentially be like backups or heavy lifters if Mo Horn hold on to that starting spot, and Bryce Pollock, and then that doesn't even talk about Terrion Grant, who came in here. Wisniewski at safety. You're maybe a little thinner at safety than you would prefer to be, but it only is. I only say that because there's some youth behind there that I think you like. It's just the guys that haven't done it yet. And then Chapman being down and being out for the majority of this season, that gives you a little, pause, if you will. But I think there's enough position flex with an AJ McCarty and a Brendan Jordan and, Malika Skara and maybe like an Amir Boyd Matthews and then Grant and all that you can kind of, there's been some cross training that has gone on, and that they can, I think you're just not going to, I just remember a couple of years ago, you get to the end of the year and you're like, you're trotting who out there? It's star like position. Cause they took like their fifth DB and like, we got nobody else. I mean, I'm trying to remember even who that was. He had never even played it before, and other than like a handful of practices. But this is what this. Hey man, what do you want us to do? This is what we've got. This is who's healthy, and I think that's the part in the intangible about your team that people probably are discounting. It was intentional in that you're covered. You're covered at kicker. You're covered at quarterback. You're covered at maybe safety, as I mentioned. Maybe we had a preference for maybe an additional running back. Maybe that we were looking for a little bit more production and depth and assurance there that you've got, and just that one extra piece. But the receiver maybe. Again, that would be much like safety. It's like I like my young pieces, but they're just not quite. So this is why Alexander rolls in, and maybe that would be if a receiver went down. Maybe it's like we're going to feature more of our tight ends or something. Which I think that you've got a really nice duo there at tight end, and you've got some depth there. So, anyways, that's the part of the team that I think people should be excited about. You just kind of hope that you don't have to go that route. Ideally, you don't want to have to cash in your insurance check. You want to just keep it in the bank.
Indeed.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you for that question. This one from Jeff. What is your favorite part about Lubbock aside from the people? That's too easy to say.
So this is where this is the question that was asked to a former head coach here on that coach's show, and it was an awkward moment, and it was referenced in this story. But my favorite thing is I love that I'm going to embrace what some people take a shot at it about. In a way, I kind of love that it's isolated. I think you're protected from a lot of the chaos out there in the world in some ways. Maybe that's naive, but I kind of like that you're insulated a bit. And it's a pain in the ass that you're 4.5 away from all these different things. But I like it. I love, the people, you're right, is the easiest thing. Because my daughter is doing an internship in Milwaukee this summer. And she has mentioned to my wife and I on more than one occasion, people up here just aren't as friendly as they are back at home. I guess it's a Southern thing. And I'm like, you don't really get it and you take it for granted until you're not in it. But like, what do I not like about it? The weather sucks. I mean, the hail can kiss my ass because I've been dealing with insurance folks the last week or so. And I've got a 2-year-old roof that's destroyed. And all that. So, and my insurance guy's like, it's just part of where we live. Yeah. So that part's not so much fun, but I'll never move from here, man. I mean, this has been here 31 years, man. This is, I grew up in Fort Worth and got out of there as quick as I could. No, I'm not trying to take a shot at my parents. My sweet parents still live there. Love going to visit. Love me some Cowtown, but not where not where my humble abode will ever be.
Well, that's good to know. Bury him in his blue jeans next to Mac and Joey McGuire, apparently. I'm from here. I didn't grow up in Lubbock, but I'm from West Texas. So this is just who I am. I can't even really separate what I like or don't like about it. It's just what my world has always been. So I like 10 minutes to anywhere, very light traffic. I like also that it's about 10 minutes to the country. That includes solitude. Very easy to find if you want it, particularly if you've got a task. You can tell the sweetheart at home, you got to go tend to the cattle, honey. The wretched work never ends. I got to get out of here. I wouldn't go if I didn't have to, you know me, but I got to get out of here. And I do also appreciate the fact that the number one talking point about our town is not how close it is to somewhere else, which seems for some reason to be something that people pimp elsewhere all the time. And if your Chamber of Commerce is rolling out a banner that says 30 minutes from Dallas, I don't know if that's such a great place, if that's the first bullet point. So I don't care about that at all.
We're the same there. We're the same there.
Yeah, I got no interest in visiting most of those places frequently on any occasion. So that's fine with me. I actually will refute something you threw out. I love the weather. We get all 4 seasons. We got about 10 minutes out of the 60 minutes that makes up 365 days a year. That sucks, but that's how we trim the fat. And that's how we keep, people where they're supposed to be. You find out how much you want to be in West Texas on days like that. So I actually enjoy that aspect. It's always an adventure. You can't beat the cost of living, and it's just as good as it gets whenever you're waking up, seeing that sunrise or the sunset. They just last longer when there's not one of those pesky mountain ranges in the way.
Yeah.
That's science.
You're referring to some of those brown sky days. Those are unpleasant, but as my wife's grandfather used to say, it keeps the Yankees out.
There's no question.
Yeah, that's right. I lack mental toughness at times, but it does improve your toughness. It's like one of the first times, like I'm at a gas station and it's one of those days, and I open up my car door, and I just was parked the right way, and the wind caught it. It's like, boom. And I'm like, that's fun.
I have welded a car door back on a vehicle, and if you hadn't yet, maybe you just hadn't been in West Texas long enough, and she closed pretty smooth.
There you go.
Pretty smooth. I'm proud of that job. All right. Thank you for that question. Before we get out of here, Chris, I want to ask you this one as well, as we're rolling into sort of a new era and back possibly to a transition, more so focusing on, I don't know, some high school or some prep level talent. And I thought this was an interesting scenario to consider that Hayden was asking us about, saying, how much does Tech's approach in the offseason, portal or transfer wise, potentially negatively affect any high school recruiting efforts? But to hear the answer to that one, you'll need to be a Matador Mob insider. So hit the show notes and find a link to a free 14-day trial. For those on the outside, this is where we leave you. Make sure you're subscribed on YouTube or anywhere you get podcasts so you don't miss a thing, and become a Matador Mobster today for less than a cup of coffee a month so you can get the full Mailbag experience next week. Have a great weekend, everybody. Appreciate your time all week long, especially you, Chris. Thank you for your regulation efforts. We are on to the OT.
Regulators, mount up. Yeah, that's right. That's right. No, enjoyed it. Talk to everybody next time. Keep the hope alive.
Absolutely. We are in full supply as we sit here with you today. So thanks for the time all week long. Have a great weekend. Get subscribed on YouTube or anywhere you get podcasts. Thanks to the everydayers for always riding along. For Chris, I'm Casey, and we hope to see you back for the next round on Locked On Texas Tech.